Carly McFadden here with LP Gas Magazine. We have with us James Rockall, CEO and Managing Director of the World LPG Association, headquartered in France. James joined the association in 2003 after working 9 years at Shell International in project management and business development, and 2 years at global energy group Alstom. He shares insights with LP Gas on the association's e-LPG week, how propane can help foster a healthy population in developing countries, and more.
Therefore, the role of the WLPGA is vital in this. We are the organization which is, if you like, the umbrella of all of the companies and all of the associations across the world. Specifically, we're working on a project right now to demonstrate that 50% of non-chemical demand can come from renewable sources by 2050. Now, for countries like the US or countries in Europe, this is really, really important because we're coming under a huge amount of pressure to decarbonize our energy. And whether we like it or not, whether we believe in it or not, we will get regulated to demonstrate lower carbon, or we will find bans coming in place more and more, and we can only fight that so much. So we believe that by having a very strong and clear low carbon position, it will be for the benefit of the industry globally. A statistic which you may or may not know, more than 3 million people die prematurely every year because of exposure to smoke indoors. And that's more than the number of people who die from HIV/AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis together. And in fact, what the statistics that we should be using now is probably how many people die from COVID compared to the number of people who die from indoor air pollution. Right now in the world, I think we're at about 800,000 people have died from COVID since the beginning of the virus, beginning of this year. 3 million people die every year from exposure to smoke from cooking indoors. So it's huge. And propane is a solution for this. Now, we have a project called Cooking for Life. We intend to switch 1 billion people to cooking with gas by 2030. If we do that, we think we'll save 1 million lives a year, every year. So more than the number of people who have died this year from COVID, every year can be saved if people switch to LPG. The projects, we are several years into it. We kicked it off in 2012. We're now over 500 million people who have switched. So we're well on target to actually get to 1 billion. So already we're probably saving 500,000 lives every year. So this is really, really important in terms of what we can bring to developing countries. We don't want it just to be any old virtual event. It's not going to be a glorified webinar. We've invested in, which is now probably the leading platform in this area in the world to host our event. It's going to be essentially 1 week of meetings. Every day we will have high-level keynotes. We have ministers lined up. We have, for instance, the executive director of the International Energy Agency, very high-level keynotes. We will have strategic sessions every day. We will also have sessions related to technology. We will incorporate our annual Autogas conference, our annual LPG for Development event, and other third parties. IHS, for instance, will be holding a session, and some other third parties as well. All of this content will be available to the people who subscribe. It will be state-of-the-art, the latest information in our sector. And it's available online interactively. And it's also available on replay for as long as the platform is available, which will probably be for several months. So if you sign up for it, you get access to this content in real time, but also on replay. I'm not going to... Absolutely. Is the simple answer to that. The United States is the largest exporter of propane in the world, and that's the reason alone that we need to work with them. And it's reason alone for the US to want to work with us, because it's the customers of those big exporters in the US are all over the world. There's an interest for the US to see value-added markets develop around the world so that they have markets for the product that they produce. So I think that's very important. But the US is also a tremendous source of innovation and technology in the sector. We as the world would like to learn and understand in the US what you're doing, what new technologies are available. And also those technologies can be applied in other markets, and that gives market opportunity to US companies to actually start to expand their businesses overseas. So I think it's very important from the US point of view as well. But it goes beyond technology. It also, what's very, very important and increasingly important today is advocacy. If you look around the world, Europe still is probably the leader in energy policy. What gets decided in Europe eventually cascades to other parts of the world, perhaps with the exception of California, which is also pretty avant-garde in terms of its energy policy. It really is useful for countries to watch and follow and influence, to an extent, what's happening in Europe on energy policy. So that's something I think is very important for the cooperation between Europe and the rest of the world. This year, LPGA joined our Leadership Council, which is really important, and PERC is also on that council. And in return, I'm now a member of the board of the LPGA. So we have much more opportunity for cooperation and exchange of ideas and information.